What I'd like to do is to spend the next few minutes demonstrating for you Grason-Stadler's new audiometer. It replaces the GSI 61. It is called the AudioStar Pro. I've been selling, installing, training, and servicing Grason-Stadler audiometers for, actually since 1975. And one of the joys of it is, of every audiometer ever made, the Grason-Stadler is one that you know you can bring in, you can set it and forget it, and they will love it immediately, and will for 15 to 20 years. They're dependable, durable, and designed so that almost every audiologist falls in love with it immediately. And so the new Grason-Stadler AudioStar Pro is in that same line. In fact, the team that designed the GSI 61 and the TimStar are the ones that designed the AudioStar Pro. So what I'd like to do is just take a few minutes and go through the front panel and the general operation. When you see that, you'll see that it's very much like a GSI 61. That the control panel of the 61 was used as a basis of designing this. So someone who was using a GSI 61 in the past would immediately feel familiar with this. But as you'll see, it's got a whole lot more power under the hood. It's a PC-based audiometer, but it is also a standalone audiometer. The difference between it and other PC-based audiometers is that it's very, very powerful. In fact, it is a PC in itself, and you'll see that when I operate it. So it does not require a PC to do things that are normally done on a computer. It can stand as a standalone unit. You can enter patient information, you can write a report on the patient, and you can print out directly, no computer involved. You can print out a report on that patient. However, naturally, since we may be interested in electronic reports and electronic medical records, and we might be interested in interfacing with those databases or another database like NOAA, and in that case, everything is instantly transferred to a computer via software called GSI Suite, which I'll show you as well. Okay, you might notice, just looking at this panel right now, that it looks familiar because it looks like the control panel of a GSI 61. And if you look at the display is, again, familiar because at least the top of it looks like what most people are used to on a GSI 61. The display is color, of course, and it is high resolution, and it is about the size of an iPad, and it is that purposely because a lot of times if you use a computer monitor, and you can hook up a computer monitor, which can be inside the booth or outside, it would be a second monitor. You could even buy this without this monitor and use that instead. But the reason I like the monitor that normally comes with it is just the right size. It's not so big that I got to put it over to the side because it blocks my view of the patient in the booth. And it's easy to see. You might notice that the patient's name is up here because I entered that in. Again, now I'm going to talk about this thing as a standalone without its computer component first. And the name of the operator is also up here at the top. Okay? And when I turn this on, this is the way it came up. It came up this way because I have it programmed. I have my defaults programmed. I have channel 1 programmed to come up at 35 dB, channel 2, which I'm going to be using for masking, to come up at 0, and the frequency at 1,000. I could have programmed it to default in speech or with another set of numbers than I have. Anyway, regardless, this is the typical display on the screen. if you didn't like seeing the audiograms, you could hit a button and just see exactly what you typically see on it in the regular operation of a GSI 61. I'll put the audiograms back. Okay, so now looking at the panel, you'll notice that just like the GSI 61, there's a channel 1 section and there's a channel 2 section. This is a true 2-channel clinical audiometer, or a type 1 audiometer. And the reason it is a true 2-channel audiometer is because it fits the criteria. It has 2 identical input switches and output switches. One channel is not abbreviated. They're both equal. And it also has 2 attenuators, 2 interrupters. When you are in speech, it has 2 VU meters, and it has, of course, 2 external inputs. That's the criteria for a true 2-channel audiometer, and it certainly is that. So you can select tone, microphone, or external A and B, same as the GSI 61, but the external A and B also says internal, because it has, internally, it has MP3 files for speech stimulus that's pre-recorded. And I'll show you exactly how that works, and you'll hear it. And I think you'll find that extremely useful. Most people really like that. You have routing down here, left, right, or both. Same on both channels. Here you have a selection of the type of masking noise, and it would be narrowband speech noise or white noise. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. When it comes to the attenuators, they're the same size and feel that the GSI 61 had. And so are the interrupters. And the frequency switch, again, in an easy place to get to it. With the same configuration that you had on the GSI 61. Notice that I can use a mouse on here. Okay, it comes with a wireless keyboard and a wireless mouse. And so you can use a mouse for certain functions if you wanted to, or you could not use it at all. I'm going to give you an example of what you might do with it. Over here, this is in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you see signal. And if I click on that, now I can choose FM or pulsed, or FM and pulsed, or just close that out. I didn't have to use my mouse for that. I could have just selected that with this large button right in the middle here, select a button, and then with my arrows, I could move over to whatever I wanted to choose, like that. So it's a mouse operation or a button operation. If you had no mouse, it would still operate like a normal audiometer. Okay, so now that you've seen the control section, let's just go over what the outside keys are, because some of these are pretty interesting. Over in this array right here, which says monitor, it's for monitoring the test signal from channel 1 and channel 2. It's also for monitoring the talk back of the patient. And it is for adjusting the volume of the auxiliary intercom. What is that? That's a headset that an assistant that's in the booth might wear. And you can then communicate with the assistant in the booth, independent of the patient. That's built in. We used to have to put those, come up with those separately for GSI 61s when people needed them. So here, if I push this button, I'm selecting C channel 1, channel 2, auxiliary intercom, or talkback to adjust the volume of. And then when I use the slider key, you see the volume shows up on the screen there. And once I make that, another couple of seconds, and that disappears there. Okay. So this way you can tell when you're adjusting it, like if I'm adjusting the talkback, just where my control is, as if you had a knob, and this would be the knob is all the way up, or this would be the knob is kind of halfway in the middle. Okay, makes sense. So here I'm able to monitor the test signal like that, which I happen to select pulse, and you can see an indication up here that a signal is being applied to the patient. If I'm going to use my auxiliary intercom because I want to tell the assistant that's in the booth something, they're wearing the headset, and I simply push this. There's an indicator up on the screen when I do that, and I can talk to the assistant. What am I using for a microphone? There is this headset. This headset's much better than the one that was on the GSI 61 or the GSI 16 before that. It is very comfortable, very convenient, very, very durable, and just plugs right in the side. No special connectors or anything even. These three keys are the same as we had before. We have a correct and an incorrect key that we would use to score, like word recognition score. And we also have a start, stop, and pause if we were trying to time like a tone decay test. Then up here we select tone or high frequency or speech or more. See, more gives you the ability to choose an ABL test, a quick SIN test, which is built in, SISI test, the 10 test, and I won't spend time explaining what that is because that will add a lot of time to this. Tone decay test, well, we can just cancel out of it. So more is more tests. Speech just brings you into general speech. High frequency will convert this. If you have high frequency headphones, they're an option. But instead of going to 12,000, just like the GSI 61 did, it will go to 20,000, okay, and contain all the ANSI frequencies in between. And there is a patient key and an examiner key. Examiner, for example, if I push that there, you see I can select either I'm going to do the test or I'm going to do the test or Jan's going to do the test. And no matter how many people I have, I select an examiner, and this way at the bottom of the report, the person who did the test name is on the report. I could select patient here. Now I've already filled this out, but I can type in the patient's first name, their last name, an ID number or something. I could select their gender, and of course it will know. Oh, I can put in their date of birth, and that information appears on the printout as well, or the electronic record, either one. Press any other button and it goes back to another function. Notice this little pen down here in the lower right-hand side. If I press that, now I can type in, and directly from here. Now again, I'm not using the computer. This has a computer. This is a computer just dedicated to the function of the audiometer. So I can type in my comments, and I can cut and paste and all that kind of good stuff that I would normally be able to do with a word processor. Again, if I'm going to change my signal, I can choose that here. Like if I wanted to change to warble tone, I can do that, and I've got a warble tone. If you wanted to change the steps from a 5 dB step to a 1 dB step or 2 dB step, I can do it here. If I want to make this UCL or MCL instead of thresholds, I could do that here. If I wanted to turn on a Stenger test, I can do that here. And if I want to mark the audiogram as if they were aided rather than unaided, I can do that here. And if I wanted to report reliability on the test report, then I can choose good, fair, or poor right here. So that's easy, and I find it easiest to just do that with the mouse, though I wouldn't have to. I can use the keys. Over on the other side, there's a print key, because you can print the entire report immediately and directly to a printer from here. It has drivers for most of the common Hewlett-Packard printers built right in. The next key is data transfer, And when I do that, you'll notice that a symbol will appear on the screen because I'm transferring to the computer, and that's how long it took. I'm transferring to the computer the test that I just did. Okay. And next, status, do I want to see the audiogram or not? Very simple. And then next, interlock and tracking. Remember those on a GSI 61, interlock locked the two interrupters together, and tracking locked the two attenuators together. Okay. There are also VRA keys on here, a left and right VRA key. So if you want to operate your VRA system from the audiometer, you can. They can either be used or not. Here's the talk forward control, and I don't know if you can see this on the video, but it's got a very nice tube light around it, so you'll know what intensity it is. And of course, it's indicated on the screen. You turn that knob, now we're at 70 dB for talk forward. That's you talking forward to the patient. Okay. One more thing, and we're done with all these buttons, and that they are the level controls. The level of the test mic, or external A, external B. Now, even though it has the words that most people would use in speech testing built in, you could always have an external input of a CD player or an MP3 player or something like that if you wanted to. Most users would not need to. So here, if I wanted to adjust the intensity of the test mic, then I could just, I'm in tone, that's why it won't let me do that. But if I was in microphone and I wanted to adjust the level of the test mic, then I could adjust it like this. See, I'm adjusting my VU meter. Say the word, whoops, okay. Anyway, that's these level adjustments. Really simply the calibration to 0 VU, okay? And I guess the only buttons I didn't talk about are the store buttons, because after you do each test, like you find the threshold at a particular frequency, you would hit one of the two store buttons and it would proceed to draw the audiogram. When we go into speech, now I'm going right to a speech test, and I can choose a word list. Okay, now this is going to be an internal word list, and if I want it to be spondee words, then I simply do that, and here are my spondee words, and I can go to whatever level I want and
playground.
Just click on that word,
Daybreak.
and it will be presented. I can go
Northwest.
at any speed
Mushroom.
or in any order that I want.
Cowboy. Hot dog.
This is very, very easy to do. All I'm doing is clicking on them with the mouse.
Oatmeal.
If you wanted to, of course, you wouldn't have to use the mouse. You could use the keypad that's on the machine as well. I just like using the mouse here. Okay. If I want to change my list, let's say that's my threshold. Well, I would just hit store, and that would be stored. If I wanted to change my word list and use one of the NU6 lists, then I simply select that, and now things are a little different because now I'm doing a different type of test.
Say the word Lord. Say the word bull.
And for these, you might hit correct or incorrect.
Say the word pool.
Notice when I hit the correct button,
Say the word nag.
it ends up green.
Say the word limb.
If I hit the incorrect button, it ends up red.
Say the word shout.
And notice on top here, this is telling me they got 4 out of 5 words correct, and that would be a score of 80%. Okay, and if I considered that word recognition test, when I hit store, it would store that as the score. for the word recognition test. Okay, so I've got an audiogram and I've got a speech test done, and at this time I could, if I'm done testing, I could hit the print button and I'm going to get a report. Everything will be on the report. If I typed in a test conclusion or result, that'll be there. Patient demographics will be there. And again, I used no computer to do so because this is powerful enough to do all of that. But suppose you want to take the information that's on the GSI 60, I'm sorry, I'm so used to saying GSI 61, the AudioStar, and now move that to a computer so you could have a electronic medical record that you might want to email to somebody, or merge with a database like Electronic Medical Records or NOAA. Then I'll show you how easy that is. It's as easy as pushing that data transfer button that I had pushed over here before, and within a couple of seconds, boom, it's right there in the computer, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. I want to tell you before we get off of this that there are jacks for everything. Phones, inserts, high-frequency phones, and when you use the high-frequency phones, if you wanted to use those for the entire audiogram, you wanted to use them to go from 125 to 20,000, you certainly could. And of course, it has an impeccable sound field amplifier built right into it, 40 watts. So you have all of the transducers here, plus a headset for an assistant, and of course bone and all that. And so now let me show you what you might do with a computer hooked up to it. I showed you so far what you would do with no computer, and that was pretty powerful. The computer gives you a couple of more things you can do. So we're going to transfer over to maybe look at the computer now. Okay, so now here we're looking at the software that comes with it, which is called GSI Suite. Okay, when I hit the data transfer button, this popped in here. This is the exact audiograms that I had on the screen here. And by the way, you can see them either right and left like that, or left and right like this, or combined. All right, that's all part of the setup. And you also have the pure tone average here, which is also on the screen of the AudioStar, and the SII, Speech Intelligibility Index, is also displayed. And notice it picked up, it of course knew the day and the time, and it picked up the patient's age at the time of test is in there. It knew his date of birth because I put it in. Date of birth is here. The patient's gender is here. And of course the patient's name is here, their ID. These are things we put in on the AudioStar. Jan Olick was the tester because we selected examiner from the AudioStar. If we had a number of different locations, like you have an office in Buckhead, but you also have one in Marietta, and you have another one in Lawrenceville, well, you would simply enter those in and then select one under the title of location. And if you wanted to report reliability, then you can do this. Otherwise, it'll pick it up from the GSI 61. If you wanted to type in a comment, you can go here and type in a comment. I can hit that, and I can edit the comment that came over from the AudioStar, or I can write it here instead if I wanted to. Okay, I'm looking now at the audiograms. If I wanted to look at my speech results, I would just go to the speech tab, and the SRT and the word recognition score are there for both ears, because after I obtain that information, I hit store on the AudioStar, and as soon as I hit data transfer, everything went in here. Okay, and I can also I can make a report out of this. I can say save. I'm saving it now. When I hit this save icon, I'm saving it as a PDF. I've already done that, and here's what it looks like. Okay, it would have the name of my practice up here and my logo, and it's very, very easy to put the logo in and put the practice in. It doesn't take an IT engineer to do it. It's very easy utility. I'll show you that in a minute. It had the patient demographics were in here. Of course, the audiograms are there. Right, left, right are combined. And you have a symbol key here of the symbols that were used on the audiogram. They are the conventional ones. Remember, this has the quick SIN and the 10 test in it, special speech tests, as well as the conventional ones. If you used masking, the levels would have been recorded in these graphs. The speech results are recorded here. And whatever you wrote in for comments, there's plenty and plenty of room for comments. And then the examiner is noted on the report here, and there's a place to sign and date it manually if you wanted to. And so that's the electronic report. And of course, you would print that if you actually wanted a printed copy. One more thing that I want to show you about the computer. The computer can also be used to configure the AudioStar. Here's an example. This is the configuration piece. And you see, I can decide what frequencies I want, if I want something different than the typical frequencies in the pure tone average for both phone, and I can do it for bone too. I can decide whether I want my bone to be mastoid or forehead, whether I want my graphs, audiogram graphs on the screen to be left, right, left, as I had it, or combined. In other words, superimposed, right and left. When I power up, do I want to power up into pure tone or high frequency, or power up into speech, right? And I'll be able to select everything else. For example, will my phones be my default transducer, or will it be inserts or something else? How will it be set up? Tone on channel 1 and narrowband masking on channel 2. That's the way I have mine set up. If you wanted to set it up some other way. Would pulsing be on right away? Do I want that to be my default? So when I come to it, it's exactly the way I normally run. Okay. So all of these things in the speech, I could set that up too. What do I want for my default stimulus? Do I want it those built-in words, word lists, usually, and speech noise on the other channel for masking? Am I going to start out with an SRT? Usually. So I set that up, and then I just go and hit this upload. I'm uploading it to the GSI 61 when I do that, whatever I've put in here. So I can configure it to be what I want it to be. It has it comes with configuration software as well as the GSI Suite. The GSI Suite is for making reports like this, and I simply save them to a folder that I call GSI Reports, and so I can get any patient, I can get a different patient, and open them up, view their report, print out their report, email their report. It's simply a PDF file that anybody can open, and that's it. Well, I hope that gives you a good overview of the Grason-Stadler AudioStar Pro. And I found an ad that we just designed and are about to send out. You might receive one in the mail on the GSI AudioStar Pro. But I think it's a good summary of what we've been saying in the last few minutes. The GSI AudioStar Pro contains the tradition, continues the tradition of excellence through 5 points. And these are 5 very good points. It really was the focus of the design. It's meant to be fast. In other words, you don't click on a menu and then choose something from another menu and then count 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then it arrives. Whenever you select something, you have it instantaneously. That makes it efficient. It's customizable, so you can set it up to run just the way you want it to. It's completely familiar. As soon as you look at it, you feel at home with it, especially if you've used a GSI 61 or a GSI 16 before. And it's compatible with any computer system and EMR. Okay? So it can be used standalone or PC enabled. It has a large color display. It is a familiar design, extremely easy to use. It has built-in wordless WAV files. It has built-in special tests like QuickSyn and the 10 test. It integrates with either GSI Suite, NOAA, or Auto Access. Those are databases. And you can transfer the results to the PC, make a PDF file, so you'll have an electronic file, and of course, from there to the EMR. So anyway, those are the main features, and as I said, I have always been a fan of Grason-Stadler. I've enjoyed installing hundreds and hundreds. I couldn't count the amount of Grason-Stadler audiometers ever since the 1701 in 1975. And this follows a tradition of excellence, ease of use, and durability. All of these audiometers have been in service for at least 15 years. So I'm delighted to have this, and I think it'll be the most popular two-channel clinical audiometer in the United States. And I'm sure that you may be sitting in front of one someday soon. Thank you very much.